All right, we're gonna make chicken dumplings, and I've got 3.5 pounds of chicken thighs. We're going to put it into the the Instant Pot. We're gonna select the meat stew, and inside the Instant Pot I have about 2 inches of vegetable broth. Put all the thighs down inside, make sure they're covered well with the broth. We're gonna put on the lid, make sure that the vent is closed. We're gonna hit meat stew for 30 minutes and let that go. And then I'm gonna show you how to make the dumplings and roll them out. Okay, now for the dumplings. This is my favorite flour, White Lily, all purpose, and it's 5 cups, not packed, just measured, topped off. A tablespoon of black pepper, a teaspoon, and I use the pink Himalayan salt, and then milk, and I don't even know what kind I have. Reduced fat, 2%. It's fine. Anything works. About 1.5 cups to start. And then I have removed all of my rings and washed my hands very well. It's just gross. Bacteria gets around your rings, so I recommend for anybody to take them off. And then I hand mix the dough until it's all worked in. All the liquid is soaked up. It can be a little sticky, so then you know you need to add more flour. If it's too dry, you can add a little bit more milk. It's not exactly a science. It's just whatever you like your texture to be, and that's usually about 1.5 cups, sometimes 2 cups. And what I like to do while I'm rolling my dough, I always use a pizza cutter. The house out here in the woods does not have a pizza cutter, so we will use a knife today. And I will break that down and show you how I layer my dumplings to let them dry out before we boil them in the broth. And I will show you what the dough looks like in just a moment. This is about the consistency that I like my dough. Almost like a modeling clay. And just a moment, and I will show you how I roll them out. So before I roll out the dough, I go ahead and get my base ready. It is 10 to 12 cups of water, depending on how loose you like your dumplings. I usually put 10, and then when it cooks down, it gets real thick. I use the Better Than Bouillon roasted chicken base. And it says 1 teaspoon per 8 ounces. So this is about what I do. I do 2 of these little balls. I don't actually measure them. 2. Stir it around. I set my oven to 8, between the high and the 8. And just let it go. And then I go roll out my dough. And we're back for rolling dumplings. Okay, so my tips and tricks are, I always use wax paper. Once I've rolled them and cut them, put one down on the, and make sure your counters are clean and completely dry. I always use my wooden roller, and always make sure after every cleaning, you never ever soak it in water. Don't leave it to set. Make sure it's dry before each time you put it away so that it stays and doesn't crack and damage the wood. And then let's get started. So I put a little bit of flour down on the counter. I take a chunk of dough, add a little bit more flour, and then I roll. And I flip it over. I just want a consistent depth for the whole dumpling. And if it starts cracking, you can also fold it over. Almost as if you're working with a pastry dough. If it gets sticky, you can add more flour. And like I said, I always use a pizza cutter. We don't have one today. And the reason I use a pizza cutter is because when I'm done, I can just go whoop, 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 completely slice it in seconds. Whereas if you're doing it with a knife, it's just a little bit more slow. And I like cooking quick. It's hard to ever videotape with my children in the house because they're loud and they interrupt. And I feel like I have to constantly mute the sound and I have to restart the videos, and I don't have time for that. So this is about the right consistency. This is about how thin I like them, all the way around. So then I do a almost inch size slices. Like this. And I slice them. Small little squares, rectangles, whatever size you prefer. About like this. And I lay them out on the wax paper. And as it fills up, you just take another sheet of wax paper, lay it on top of these dumplings, and start a whole nother layer. You leave them on the counter for about 30 minutes to an hour while your chicken is cooking and your broth is getting really hot to drop the dumplings. And that way it dries them out a little bit so they're a slower cook, so all the gluten doesn't come out, so they're not gooey dumplings when you're done cooking them. And I will go ahead and pause this and finish rolling everything out and show you how much 5 cups of flour make for dumplings, and we'll be back. Okay, so it made 3 sheets, and I actually came over to the oven with it by sliding it onto a cutting board to make it easier. And I'm going to switch the camera around just a moment, bear with me. My pot of broth is now at a rolling boil. The most important thing about these dumplings, you have to drop them one at a time. So drop one in, make sure it hits the water, dump another one, so on and so forth. And stir it around a little bit so they don't stick to the bottom. And I do this until I have the entire 3 sheets of dumplings in the pot. And then I let them boil for about 30 minutes. And then I turn them down and add the pulled chicken, because by the time the chicken's done, it's so tender it pulls right apart with one fork. I'll show you that too later, and we'll be back. Okay, so all the dumplings are in the pot. And one more thing, I go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of pink salt to the broth. I use garlic powder, a heaping tablespoon, and ground thyme. And that's a 1/2 tablespoon. Just so you know, dried herbs are more potent. If you were to use fresh, you would need 3 times as much. And you need to add those to, if they were fresh, you can add them to the end of your cooking so that you don't cook out all of the flavor and burn them. But with dried, you can add them in now. And so before it goes for 30 minutes, I'm going to add the lid and cover them. And we'll let them roll for about 30 minutes. So the chicken is now finished, and we're going to do the quick release on the Instant Pot. And while I'm doing that, Willow wants to say hi.
Hi.
All right, and here's the quick release. I know lots of people are scared of the Instant Pot. I use mine every day. It's fabulous. There's nothing scary about it. If you need any recipes, let me know. I cook a lot with it. The chicken is out, hot and steamy, but look how easy that just shreds. One-handed, one knife. And then when it's all shredded, I dump it in over the dumplings and let it continue cooking for a few more minutes. And they're finished. This is what they look like. If you take them off the heat for a little while, it will thicken up a little bit more. But these are amazing and easy. And it's bon appetit. Don't judge me, I use plastic. I rewash it. I just don't like metal in my mouth. But anyway, that's dumpling. Super soft, super savory. Hope you guys make it. Let me know. Hope you enjoy.